Hey everybody. Last week I did a Facebook Live. I was definitely shook after an unfortunate experience in their restaurant where I was complaining to some wait staff professionally about the way they fixed my breakfast. And then an older white gentleman came and got in my face and basically screamed at me to eat my food. I never got a call back from their customer service department because I told them that I was considering legal action. And so the gentleman who is their chief of operations or customer service said we were consulting with our legal staff before we contacted you. I'm like, you can say that. You can call somebody back. You can tell them that. But the reality of the matter is, first of all, the white man who doesn't have any comprehension of what it's like for a black woman to be sitting down, basically asserting their rights as an American and saying, my food's not good, because you can say that, this thing is lost signal for a second. You can say that, but you can't say that when you're a black woman in America, because then, of course, when this man, while I'm having a casual conversation with the waitress, comes and gets in my face and starts screaming at me to eat my food. And then when I freaked out and did a Sophia on his ass, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to end up in jail because these people are Beckying a situation that is not a situation. And I could see this. I could see it coming. I've watched it happen enough. And that's what I screamed at him to get away with me. But I spoke to the customer service. Yes, I talked to the corporate office. I went straight to corporate. I talked to the director of customer relations, and all I get is an apology and a gift card for being traumatized, for basically having a conversation. And the people that work at the Bob Evans restaurant on Broad Street in Reynoldsburg/Columbus should really be ashamed, because they lied. They lied. Everything from the black waitresses who could have gave a fuck about me in the first place, which is why I flagged down the waitress who was working at the other table. We were having a conversation. I was asking her, I was like, is this how I said, this is how this dish is normally served? And she said, I don't know why they started doing it like that. And I said, wow, this is something new then. And while we were having this and while we were working on a resolution, that is when that gentleman came over. He's not a gentleman, got in my face and screamed at me to eat my food. Got in my personal space. Mind you, the whole time I'm seated, I'm not cursing and screaming, but every single one of these people, including the white man who was sitting across from me, who said I was overreacting, because he's never been a black woman in America. He's never been a black woman in America, so he doesn't know what it's like. You know how all these Beckys say, I felt threatened? I felt like I was in danger? Well, that's exactly how I felt. And what they don't seem to understand at Bob Evans' corporate office is microaggressions. I've been in stores where I've made comments speaking in this very tone of voice and having some old white person tell me they feel like I'm hollering at them, because what they are not used to is black people asserting themselves like they do. And I can honestly tell you, I have seen more white folks, white women, get in public and clown the fool and be accommodated. They invented, let me speak to your manager. Mind you, when this situation happened, I had not requested a manager. When this situation, and I'm going to get closer to, right, they expect us to take substandard food, okay, not say anything, and, even when you come to them in the most professional, Eurocentric way possible, they expect that, and I'm just moving closer to my Wi-Fi because it keeps dropping. They, basically they expected what he did. They, eat it. And as a joke. And that's what they are seriously missing the point on, including their corporate office. That in this day and age, you don't play like that. Because when that man got in my face, yes, my instincts kicked in. And I told him to get away from me. I screamed for him to get away from me. Because I knew if you got any closer to me, that I was I felt like I was in danger. Because if you react in a human way and you push somebody that gets in your personal space out of your way, okay, that's assault. So either I had to sit in this chair and take what he was saying to me, or cause a problem that could lead to law enforcement being involved. Which is the exact reason I didn't go to Waffle House, because everybody's like, for the culture, for the culture. I've never been mistreated at my local Waffle Houses. So, I'm like, and the guy I was talking to was like, I didn't know you were black until you said something. I said, it doesn't matter. The reality of the matter is they did. I got dreads down my back. And my daughter does too. And we're sitting there trying to have a quiet breakfast, and the food wasn't good. And I was respectfully complaining, only to have one of your managers get in my face. And of course, they all lied, and I don't even know what you could do in a situation like that. I did not think to have my phone on to record this because it was eggs. I did not, I think that as black people, we have to take the perspective of filming everything when something is not right. Usually, what I'm finding is sometimes when you start recording them, they start acting like they have some sense. But also, when you record them, it can escalate the situation. But if I had known, or if even, like I said, like, who goes into a restaurant and just decides that they're going to cut the food? And I think that they made that assumption about me. I'm sure that even the black women in there made that assumption about me, because maybe they're not used to people standing up for getting what they paid for. And they really didn't know what to do with me, because number one, no, I didn't want the food returned and recooked. And they weren't listening. That's the biggest problem here, is the lack of concern, the lack of listening. I said, no, I don't want any more eggs, but I just want you all to know that this is not good. And they could give a shit. So I flagged down the next waitress to ask her, this how y'all serve food now? And we were working on a resolution. This lying ass manager, and of course all of his subordinates, because I guess they want to keep their little restaurant job like there's not more out here, that you would sacrifice your principles and lie. Because that's what they did. They all said that I was causing a major disturbance in the restaurant, that I was hollering, that I was raising my voice, that I was cursing. I didn't curse until some person who wasn't even involved in the situation got into it, talking about I overreacted. Now, I screamed at that man, told him to get away from me. Maybe I told him to get the fuck away from me. Maybe I did. But still, my reaction did not cause him to behave in the way that he did. He came to my table, leaned in without a smile on his face, and told me to eat my food. Eat it. And because I'm before the trigger set in, I wanted to make sure I understood the words that was coming out that man's mouth. I said, what? And this thing keeps stopping, so I'm taking a break and a breath when the connection goes bad. When I said, what? And he said it again. And he was leaning in my personal space. At no time did I get up out of my chair. At no time was I abusing the waitresses, because they didn't make the food. Well, my whole question to them was why would you serve someone like something like this? There's always this general assumption that we don't know how to act in public. And it's really sad, because as a professional black woman who owns a business, who has a job, who represents a company, I understand how my behavior in public could be put all over social media. And I could understand how asking for something like plastic cutlery could lead to me being beaten down like I was assaulting someone and arrested just because you asked for plasticware for a takeout meal. And that's what led us to go to to Bob Evans in the first place, and not to go to Waffle House. Because in my soul, I was just like, they're really nice over there. You guys can write them directly, inbox me. Elizabeth Ruth is my mother's name. I don't use my name publicly because, it's a long story. But back in the days when having a conjurer or being involved in magic would have you discriminated against, and now I have, a whole brand behind this name. But, the reality of the matter is you can write them. But, once again, there were no cameras. I'm like, you don't have any security cameras at your store? You don't have a way to see that I was sitting? You don't have any? He says there's no cameras in their store. That I was sitting at that table the entire time? And that I did not get up, get loud, get in anybody's face? I wasn't even as animated as when I was talking to you right now. Because I understand the nuances of, how they perceive us. Now, by no means do I operate from a standpoint of apologetic behavior. There is no shucking and jiving and no yes massa and none of that going on. But at the same time, I do understand the environment in which I live, and I understand that cutting a fool in Bob Evans' restaurant over some eggs would not be a prudent professional decision for me. But when you're feeling threatened, and you are socially, historically aware of what happens when a white man jumps in your face for any reason, yeah, you react. I told him to get away from me. So my whole thing is this. If I wanted to go in there, and they even have that on record, that I told him to get away from me. Now, I say, get the fuck away from me. And at the point where he got in my face and did that to me, maybe I did. I don't recall that. Because even in that moment of terror, which it was for me, whether or not anybody can feel like I was overreacting, I felt threatened. Because that was threatening behavior. That man lied. He, of course, they all did. The woman told me that there was a Caucasian lady that I was speaking to, a nice waitress. We were having a conversation. They say her statement is that I was creating a disturbance and that the manager was called. She never called the manager. He came over on his own. At no point in the conversation had I even asked to speak to a manager because it was eggs. So it was really unexpected that it was really unexpected that he would come and swoop in like that and get in my face and raise his voice at me like I was 5 years old. But of course they're all lying, and damn, my kid, they record everything. Man, I wish he'd gotten that. But it was a surprise. The reality of the matter is nobody thinks they've got to have their cameras turned on when they go into a restaurant and they make a complaint. I wish there was somebody there that had recorded the whole incident, because you got the one dude, white dude, mad because how dare I tell him to go fuck himself for becoming involved when he clearly had nothing to do with the situation, nor did he empathize with the fact that this was the worst customer service you could have possibly gotten. I told that man when I spoke to him, his name's Sergio, when I mess up, I own my own business. When you mess up and you know it's messed up and you're trying to de-escalate a situation, the first words out of your mouth should be, "How may I help you?" That is not what happened, but that's what they swear happened. So I guess it will be my word against theirs, and that's okay because I keep my word. And anybody who has ever done business with me or know me as a friend knows that if anything, I'm honest. I'm honest to the point where it does make people uncomfortable. But the reality of the matter is, when I'm spending my money, I want what I paid for. And if me standing up for subpar food and subpar service, we're aggressive. I can't tell you how many times in my life I've talked to somebody like this, very serious tone of voice, and especially older Caucasian people, and I felt like you were yelling at me. No, I'm sure you've seen Becky and Kate yell. I've seen it. And I've never been seen them treated with the level of disrespect that I was treated with at that restaurant. They think we're stupid. But the reality of the matter is, in this day and age and all this racial sensitivity training, and you're a manager of a restaurant, so you've got to be seeing this stuff in the media where customer complaints just go south, and it happens across the board. But those incidences that end in the arrest and the brutalization of people, they are usually brown and black. And there is no way around that. It's out here. If it's happening like that at record weights with people who are not brown and black, show me the videos. So the reason why I reacted the way I did was because you got in my face. And the reality of the matter is, you don't do that to anybody. I have never gotten in front of my children and screamed at them to eat their food. And I'm their mother. And I work hard. And I'm a damn good cook. Okay? I remember one time, I had a cousin, little girl, tell me my food was nasty. And I was like, you know what? That's really hurtful. That's really offensive. And I was like, I've never been so offended in my entire life. Don't eat it. But I did not go into that little child's face and scream in her face that she better eat her food. I don't believe in force feeding children or anybody. So that's what I'm saying. His actions were not only inappropriate, he's daft. Racially insensitive as a lot of them are. That's why people who say that they're our allies don't understand when some of the things that they say offend, because they didn't take the time. He didn't take the time to consider the implications of his actions because he did not care. Because, and I'm going to say it, yes, I'm a black woman. Now, maybe it wasn't because I was black. Maybe it was because I was a woman. Either way, that shit was wrong. You don't get in anybody's personal space and say, eat it, when you're having a problem, especially if that situation was escalated like they lied and said that it was. You need some retraining. Because intimidating somebody, making demands of somebody who's unsatisfied as a customer. So he lied. He lied and told him that he went over to the table and asked how he could help me. And I'm sitting here, next time, hopefully. I mean, there was no way to be ready for that. And that tells you everything you need to know about how that situation went down. Because if I needed to record it, y'all know I would have recorded it. I was really just taken by surprise, like by so many of us are. Like people who are pulled over at a stoplight and they get pulled over by the police and they're like, can I get out my identification? And they shoot you anyway. Or you're sitting in your car and they shoot you anyway. You're laying in the street with your hands up with your mental health patient playing with a Tonka truck and they shoot you anyway. And then when you ask them why, they say, I don't know. And that would have been the preferable answer. Why would you think that that was funny? If he just said, I don't know. And then we all could say, how could you not know? Do you live under a rock? Do you understand the situation in which we live? Being a decent human being to somebody, I don't care what color they are, is a requirement to be a good manager. You may not like somebody's performance, behavior, whatever. But if I'm managing somebody even and they're doing something wrong, getting in their face and screaming at them is not a viable solution. And so there's just, this makes no sense. I remember a long time ago, and I've talked about it several times with people. People are like, why are you committed to social justice? Why have you been fighting your entire adult life to make sure that Black people and brown people have equal access and equal treatment? And I thought about that because I'm almost 50. And you get to the point where you're just tired, and you get to the point where you don't see this changing anytime soon. I seriously have any doubts that we will ever live in this world in a post-racial environment. I'd love to leave this country but I'm still not finding a place where Black people are safe. Senegal, I believe, just gave China the rights to their salt mines or something like that, where we continue to live in environments where our best interests are not looked at. We are restricted from having quality things. And when we ask for quality, we are treated like we are sedity, like we're an uppity negress. I am thoroughly convinced that is not going to change. However, I did tell somebody that I thought that it would be real easy, because where I live is 25% Black. And no, I'm not saying that this incident started off being racially motivated, because my waitresses were Black and they wanted to give me new eggs. They didn't want to listen. They didn't want to give me the rest of my food. No, they were just being ignorant. And I'm like, and my problem wasn't really with their lack of care, because waitresses don't make a lot of money. Ain't nobody trying to hear all of that. But when you are managing a store and you're a model for your employees, and you go and you scream at a customer and you get in their face with a menacing tone and not a smile on your face. Now, if he'd have come over there and laughed and said, "Oh, girl, why don't you just eat it?" I'd have looked at him like, that's not funny. But that's not what he did. Nor did he apologize. Nor did he try to de-escalate anything, because it wasn't even escalated. He caused the escalation. Then, of course, his comrade, who's sitting across from me, talking about I'm overreacting, because we're always overreacting when we demand to be treated like decent human beings. Didn't you guys know that? So, no, the fact is, it was bad customer service, to say the least, and racially insensitive at the most. But I just don't know where in the world, racist environments, where it's okay to use intimidation to de-escalate a situation. And, of course, they're all going to lie about it. And the thing is, I was traumatized. I was triggered. I live triggered, because I've been watching the things that have been happening to other people. And my thought process was, I live in this 25% Black town, and the kids get along really great. And I haven't seen anything other than a few Trump signs that would make me feel uncomfortable here. And other than that one microaggression with that woman telling me she thought I was hollering at her. It must be very interesting to have Caucasian ears and everything. And when we speak to them, just the way in which we speak, there have been scientific studies. The way in which we speak, our timbre of our tone intimidates them. Our very presence, you ain't got to say a word. You could be wearing a suit in an elevator and some white woman will still clutch her purse. You could be working with a stethoscope on in someone's home, have paperwork. They're gonna call your employer, even when the person that's in the home being treated says she's supposed to be here, because they want to know why you're in that neighborhood. This is what we deal with every day. And I thought, for some reason, I was like, I thought that, I said, I guess I could leave these matters of racial injustice alone. Like, I know it's not going to be solved in my lifetime. I know that, all we can do, it seems to me, is maybe be angry, do some spell work, ride it out, continue not to buckle under the pressure. Yeah, you can't sit in the classroom. I can't tell you how many times. I can't tell you. We don't even want to talk about that. Where, people assume that where I got was because of affirmative action, but they weren't checking out that GPA. They weren't checking out my work ethic. They weren't checking out my level of intelligence. All they saw was a black woman doing extremely well in a program that hadn't graduated a black PhD since 1968. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't get my PhD from that school. Even though I was advised to. Even though getting 3 degrees from a university is death for you professionally. When I was getting ready to finish my master's degree, I was being strongly pursued to finish my PhD there. Why? Because they knew they could get someone to do it. While my white counterpart, good friend of mine to this day, took my comprehensive exams with her, they advised her not to do it. And she did it anyway. You're not supposed to get 3 degrees from an institution. It's limiting educationally and professionally. I've dealt with this all my life, and I thought that, yeah, I guess I could just ignore things, because the chances of me having to deal with situations like those people, how sometimes black people will put themselves in the boat of, I'm not like everybody else. I'm educated. I'm middle class. But I'd also seen too many examples of when that actually happens, where we think that we have come up and that people will respect people for how they are and how they behave. Because wasn't no hood rat shit going on up in that restaurant. Okay? There wasn't even a raised voice. I raised my voice once. I said, hey, can I have the rest of the stuff that goes with my meal? When the 2 black women walked away from my table, that's the only time I raised my voice. And the other time I was just having a conversation with her. There was no reason for this man to get in my face. None. And of course, they've all lied about it. And I wish there was a way that I could pursue something legal, but I don't have any evidence. All I have is the fact that I am well known in lots of communities, the photography community, the magical community, social justice communities in Chicago, people that I've gone to university with, people that, my own customers, who know the first thing out of my mouth, whether it's my fault or not, is how can I make this right for you? Somebody's trying to call me, but I digress. You can be the most educated person. You can be asking serious questions, no lip smacking, no head rolling. You can be sitting there and having a decent conversation, and you will always be pinned as a troublemaker for asking for basic rights, that the food that I get is quality, that I'm going to pay for. I hadn't even gotten to the point where I asked not to have my meal. I was still willing to pay for my meal at that point, y'all. I was waiting on her to answer, and it seemed like that was going to be the resolution for the situation until this man came up and screamed at me to eat my food. And then that would have been it. We'll comp that. You don't have to pay for that. All right, thanks. Might have even gone back and been able to specify, hey, can you melt my cheese and my eggs? But I doubt if I'd have gone back, but there would have never been a scene. But y'all know this. That's Bob Evans' official story from their employees, including the black women that work there, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But they didn't like the fact that I was pushing back on my meal either. The story is that I created a disturbance in the store that led the manager to come to my table. So whenever you have an issue, people, start recording. Okay? even if you don't have the camera on them. Okay? When you sense that something is wrong, start recording. You can just do a voice recording. You could do a video and sit it down, face down on your table. So before you ask for your rights to be as a consumer, and have yourself together so they don't have an excuse, because you realize we can't act like Becky and Chad out here in these streets. Start recording. I swear to God, I didn't think that I had to record complaining about a meal. I do. It's very disappointing. And they're trying to give me, you can record at your job in some ways. If you're being harassed, there's usually documentation. Okay? And I'm sorry. If I'm being harassed, I'm going to find a way to record it. Because you don't want to be in that place anyway. If they find out that you recorded them, oh well. We can't be scared to, right. If I was in any way creating a scene, the first words out of that man's mouth should have been, "You need to leave. I'd like you to leave now before I have to call somebody." If that was going down. Because that's what a restaurant manager will do. If they see a crazy escalated situation with a customer, he asks the customer to leave. It doesn't matter who was involved. You take them to another part of the restaurant, you find out their side of the story, you talk to them, but that was not what happened. I guess maybe because of my previously calm demeanor in trying to figure out what the heck was going on back in the kitchen, he thought he could do that. Yep. He thought that he could do that. Because I think that he just assumed, due to my calm demeanor and behavior, that I would accept that, or I would joke or whatever. He found that appropriate. So, this is what we're dealing with out in these streets. So, if you have to complain about anything, especially when you're in a retail environment, and if you're in the workplace and you have legitimate complaints about harassment or mistreatment, email, writing, document, okay? But if you're out here in these streets and you're in a store and you are a person of color, before you complain, push record. At least you'll have an audio file that they won't even know. They don't even have to know you're recording, because you can just have your phone in your hand like you talking, facing you or down or whatever. If you can get video, great. But if this guy at the corporate office had heard a voice recording of this situation, his story would be completely different. Because all I was an unhappy customer that was saying a complaint. I was not belligerent. I was not loud. I was speaking to them in the manner that I am speaking to you right now. The manner in which I'm speaking to you right now is not happy, unsatisfied, but not belligerent. Belligerent did not happen, actually, until the man across from me said I was overreacting. Because what happened when that man got in my face was triggering, was fear, was concerned that I was about to be abused in a public place in ways that I could not even fathom. But it was not belligerent, confrontive, and I was not, once again, the angry black woman. And see, people think we're stupid. People think that we don't know how they perceive us, whether it's right or wrong. We know how people perceive us. And most of us, as mature adults who don't want no smoke, are not going to behave in a way that's going to exacerbate their sensibilities. Because some people are frightened of that. But in my situation, I just wasn't for none of that. Who wants that? That's why I asked him. I'm like, I don't want money from you. I don't want your gift card. I'm sitting here thinking, he's like, well, we waited to call you because you said you were going to possibly pursue legal action. I don't even know if there's precedents for this, but if y'all know an attorney that you can forward to me if I remotely have a case, I doubt if I do, like I said, because it's their word against mine. But if you want something I'm not trying to, I really want him fired. At the very least, educated. But you can't educate somebody when they're lying to save their own ass. And so my biggest question is, who makes this type of shit up? Who has time in their day, I don't, to make up being abused? That's what people don't understand about the Me Too movement. That's what some of these really trash-ass adults don't understand when a kid comes to you and tells you they've been molested. Who makes that up? You're going to get a bad apple on occasion that will fabricate some shit. But most of the stuff that we have seen, and that's why I always believe victims. There's no reason for me not to believe somebody who's been victimized, because everybody wants to be happy. All I wanted to do was eat my goddamn meal. I did not want to be traumatized, triggered, threatened, have my feelings disregarded. I don't know anybody that shows up for breakfast for that. And no, honestly, God, there's absolutely nothing that Bob Evans Restaurant can do to fix this. And their so-called investigation is sad, to say the least. But that white man volunteered his information. Remember, they will volunteer to gang up on you and lie or tell their perception of what happened. Because how dare an uppity negress not want her meal? Okay? That's why I said record everything, so that you can be vindicated in matters like this. Because it's messed up out here in these streets. Human beings, you can see it on social media. Folks back in the day didn't talk all that shit to you on social media. They didn't talk shit like that to your face because you get busted in the mouth. And so what I'm seeing is a reverse thing. I'm seeing the attitudes that people take online start spilling over into these streets, where people have lost the ability, they've lost civility. There are racist and prejudiced people all over the place. But gone are the days where they're willing to keep that quiet and keep that to themselves in their houses or with their peer groups, because they feel like it's okay to do this across the board. And why is that? Because people get probation. People rape culture. There's a president of some university, Baylor, I think, just got probation for raping someone. That swimming guy. The swimming guy. Probation for violating someone. Yet, a young woman who's 16 years old who killed her John, because obviously things did break bad in that hotel room. Because obviously that wasn't what she signed up for. Okay? And hell yeah, she was going to take his money. She had to get away. But she gets to spend 51 more years in jail. And what's really fucked up about this, you all, is they act like we don't see this. They act like we don't see this so that it is okay for a white person to get in your face and scream at you when you haven't done anything wrong. There were some ladies in Target having an innocent conversation, and somebody mentioned something where I don't want to look like over kid, because it's something about, I don't want to be seen as sexy. The conversation was weird, but it was definitely not unwholesome. But some crazy Becky wants to come and monitor their conversations. Mind you, she ain't got no kids, ain't no kids around. They're in the like women's department, which probably was lingerie at Target. And they made a comment using the word sex. They weren't even describing a sex act. But she can create this scene. And they didn't put her out the store. You know? The fact that that's intolerable behavior in the United States of America, where you should be allowed to say what you want to say in the privacy of your friends, not be molested or accosted or subject to somebody's umbrage who you ain't even talking to. And they let her stay in the store. Now, make no doubt about it, y'all. They didn't put me out that restaurant. He realized immediately what he'd done was wrong and left the table. He didn't call the police. Okay? None of that happened. So, logic would tell you if I was in there cutting a fool, he would have called the police, right? Nope. The minute he saw that he traumatized me and I told him to get away from me, that's exactly what he did. And then my daughter and I got up and left the restaurant. And Mr. Citizen, whatever over there, left his email and phone number so he could give his accounting of my overreaction. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, they're always going to band together. It's really sad. It's a sad, disgusting commentary on the world we live in, where truth, quality customer service, and honesty is no longer the soup of the day. So share this with people. I would appreciate it if none of us ever ate at Bob Evans restaurant ever again. You know, and I told him, I said, if I have to organize a community protest, I will. But I swear those people aren't worth my time. I said, but you know what? Black folks show folks like they showed Uber. Remember when that happened? We show people with our pockets. Shea Butter, the Shea Moisture, them people, we show people with our pockets what we are not going to tolerate. I have way, way, way too much on the line, personally and professionally, to, number one, be out here in these streets cutting a fool over a Bob Evans breakfast. Secondly, ain't nobody got time for that. Nobody. People just want to live in peace, and they want to be treated like a decent human being. But the next time somebody doesn't want to treat you like a decent human being, one or two routes. Record immediately. Or just leave. My thought process is what I'd already eaten the food a bit. The other parts that I could eat. And my daughter was mashing. If I'd gotten up and left because of the way I was treated, they could have called the police on me for skipping out on my bill. So that's the only reason why I even continue to talk about it with anybody. But I promise you, the next time somebody brings food to my table that's unacceptable, I'm going to be like, don't eat. No, I'm not sending it back to the kitchen. And we're leaving. Show these people with your pocket. Because any way you cut it, just like Sandra Bland, they never have paid for what has happened to that girl. No matter, no way. I don't care how right you are. I don't even care if the video cameras are on. That there are people out here getting away with mistreatment and murder every day. But don't stand for it. Because obviously he's not had enough interaction with people of color to know that that is socially unacceptable. But wouldn't that be socially unacceptable if I wasn't a person of color? Somehow maybe it is because I am. Play with your pockets. Show people what you mean with your money. Stop giving money to people who mistreat you. That's why I wasn't even at Waffle House that morning. That's how we ended up at Bob Evans in the first place. So I'm going to get back to work. But please share this with every single person you know. Please do me that favor, because they lied. They all lied, as I expected they would. I didn't expect the black chicks to lie. But, you know, they weren't happy with me either. Because I guess maybe I was making their day difficult by asking, what y'all doing here? What's going on with this food? Food was lukewarm. Eggs were, it was just horrible. You know, any place that doesn't serve you decently, I can see now that trying to get them to do so is actually danger for you. Just get up. Don't eat nothing. Walk out and leave. But don't eat anything, because then you've now skipped out on the bill. But if you trust your spidey sense, trust your instincts when you walk into places. Get a feel for places, and only shop in places where, if you do have a complaint, they regard you. I demand good customer service. I had a problem with the way a man at the meat counter treated me at Kroger. The manager at the store listened to me, gave me a little gift card, you know, problem solved. That's all she did. Problem solved. I still shop there to this day. So that's the only thing I can see. You know, we are, you know, many of us are middle class African Americans. We don't have to give people who don't treat us properly our money. And the minute they tried to feed me that slop, I should have trusted my instincts and got up and left. And that's a shame that you have to do like that. But the only thing that really bothers them and the only thing that really hurts them is money. Not learning, not improving your customer service skills, not doing better for your customers, and cultural understanding about why certain behaviors are just wrong. Wrong for anybody, but exacerbated due to racial stereotyping and social injustice in this country. And I don't see a solution for it. But I don't want us out here, number one, putting ourselves in danger with these fools. And secondly, I just don't see that. What resolution is that other than that man losing his job? There is none. You come on, can I give you a Bob Evans gift card? And the reality of the matter is, where have we gotten where sacrificing your principles and your dignity for money is acceptable? You've already proven to me that your food is nasty. Why would you want to give me more of your food? You know, and that's how people have been easily placated. Instead of making people do their jobs, they get free shit. They file lawsuits. Okay? And so people made fun of the black people that only wanted $1 for being mistreated in Starbucks. But that shows you everything about those two people, and especially now that I have witnesses, because I was like, $1, I'd make them pay. But now that I've been put on the other side of a situation like this, I didn't want their money. What I would prefer is to have my day back. What I would have preferred is not to be traumatized. What I would prefer is not having flashbacks to being really, really, really scared that what I thought at my age and in my location and my behavior would be impossible. And that would be to have the police called on me, and for me to be mistreated or abused because I complained. There's no dollar amount that settles that. There is no settlement that helps you. You know, if I really don't think I have a case, but if you all know a civil rights attorney and you think I do, then let me know, because I'd give all that money away. I'd pay for people's educations with it. You know? Or I'd fund a town in Haiti so that we have a place to go as black people where we don't have to deal with that type of stuff anymore. You know? Marcus Garvey tried to do it. Marcus Garvey tried to create a whole reality for us, and what did they do? The IRS went after him. Because when you do try to create safe spaces, or you do try to keep yourself safe, Black Wall Street, Rosewood, Move, and you can be minding your own black ass business, the Black Panthers, they will come and decimate you anyway. So, you know, I've been talking for almost an hour. What a waste. It's a waste of my time. So I'm going to let you guys go, but I really want you to share this with your friends. I really want people to see this. You know, I made a video a few years ago about being safe around white people, because my daughter thought that because we were leaving Chicago and coming to Ohio, that she would be safe. And in a way, I'm really kind of glad that she got to witness that. You know, because my daughter knows me, and she knows I wasn't cutting the food. My daughter seen me cut the food before with people. My daughter knows I was being very well behaved, and they knew it too. And I didn't want my daughter to have that illusion of safety moving here, because sometimes, you know, it's not your people that are going to be your problem. And that video got over 60,000 hits. And I think it's really important that this video get more hits. It's not about me being internet famous or making money. Because honest to God, money, that's not really going to solve what happened to me that day. I am going to live with that feeling of terror for the rest of my life. And I've been in some scary situations with racists. But when I tell you, I think the impact of this more was the situation. This was eggs. I think that I've even got people on here who went to college with me. They've known that I've gotten death threats for, you know, getting a fraternity suspended for a blackface skit. They've seen me defending a student getting death threats because he's pulled out of his car and he was beaten. And they called him a nigger the whole time, but yet he's some little black kid from the suburbs who said he didn't feel it was racially motivated. You know, beaten up, didn't feel it was racially motivated, but they calling him all out of his name while they're doing it. And I defended him and I stood up for him. And they hadn't even pressed charges. They wouldn't even go in looking for the dudes. But when I tell you that, yeah, at this day and age and my level of maturity, how that particular situation completely blindsided me. And if I had been hostile or disruptive or loud and screaming at people, yeah, I could kind of understand why somebody might come up and get in your face. Still wouldn't have been right, you know, but what happened there didn't happen like that. And they have managed to tell a completely different story than what happened. Record everything, people, because that's your only defense out here, you know, and stay away from them. You know, I'm really going to be hesitant about going out to eat, which is exactly what they want. But, you know, for my own sanity, I'm not dealing with situations like that anymore. First sign that food's bad, I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to eat the food. Don't eat the food. If you do take a bite and you discover it's nasty, say, this is not good. I don't want it, and I'm leaving. And if they try to stop you from leaving, I would say call the police. But, right? I don't know what to tell you. And there's no way. It's sad. For all of the avoidance, for all of my working at home, for all of the things that I have done in my life to keep those types of situations from happening to me. It can happen to me. It can happen to you. It can happen to your children. And in some situations, people end up dead. And that's the problem. Because if they perceived all that about me when none of that happened, man, it's exactly why I panicked. Because of the way they treat us. and they don't get it. They refuse to get it. They just don't care. So know that. I don't go out here expecting folks to care. I don't expect people to care. But I do expect people to behave a certain way in a professional environment. That did not happen at Bob Evans. Have a good day.